Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Today's podcast guest was on the original Someone You Should Know radio show back in 2001. It's 22 years later. He's traded in the snow of Lake Tahoe for the sunny beaches of Costa Rica. He's got a great new sound that you are just going to love, because I sure do. Will you please welcome my friend, the incredibly talented Costa man, Darin Talbot. Welcome aboard, bud.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rick. Such a pleasure to be back on your show. It seems like a lifetime.
Yeah, 22 years. So what you been up to?
Oh, yeah. Gee, let's see. Where do I start? What have I not been up to?
It's been a generation. Jeez, 22 years. I remember back in 2001, I called you Lake Tahoe's answer to Jimmy Buffett. Now you definitely got the Buffett vibe in Costa Rica, man. It sounds so good. I love the vibe you're putting out.
A lot, man. It's been a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I got a little bit Tahoe kind of burnt. I got burnt out a little bit in Lake Tahoe. I'd really just kind of, I think, had worked that to as far as it could go.
Right, absolutely.
And then it was just time for something new. And I remember having a gig one time where I hit a home run, and the lady said, I'm going to do a site inspection for a client in Costa Rica next week. And I was like, oh, take me with you. Please take me with you. And she did. And she did. And I was so lucky. And my wife the week before had said, manifest something else for us, would you, so we can go somewhere warmer? And I said, because it was really cold at the time. And then it all just literally happened. It's the darndest thing. And so I ended up going down there. I got some gigs singing and performing in some hotels and some really great spots, and realized there was nobody writing songs about Costa Rica. There was just no one that was like a Costa Rica guy. And it was just all wide open. And the place was just filled with exuberant life and energy and fun and pura vida and all of it. And so it was a natural thing for me. It felt like I was just right at home.
I'll tell you what, before we delve more into Costa Rica, I want to give the listeners a little sample of what you sounded like back in 2001. This is the song that actually came to my ears from our dear friend Bradshaw Lambert. He sent the disc to me, and this song I fell in love with. Here's a little sample of the Bloody Mary song from Darin Talbot.
But all you need is a big tall glass, a scoop of ice, and a steady pour. Talking about a shot of Solí vodka and a can of tomato juice, a little Worcestershire and a shake of Tabasco, some salt and pepper too, and a little baby cocktail, onions and olive, and a pickle and a pepper or two, an iced teaspoon and a celery stick, and Bloody's gonna get me through.
All right, 22 years ago that song came out. 2001, a sample of Darin Talbot's great song called The Bloody Mary Song. The surf and turf have done wonders for your music. It is very refreshing, man. I understand you've been living in Costa Rica now for about 12 years, right?
Yeah, 12 seasons. And
12
ironically,
seasons.
I still play that song quite a bit.
Oh, great. Awesome. Very good. It's a great song. It's just
people love Bloody Marys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my go-to drink, so I absolutely love it. Every time I have one, I kind of think of you. It's kind of strange. Here we go. We've got this little brotherhood going on. That's been going on for 22 years.
I always said that song's like a recipe song, because it tells you how to make it.
Exactly.
Whatever, right?
Exactly. Well, it's just like I forgot the shrimp. I forgot the shrimp garnish.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to go back to Walmart, Leslie. I forgot the shrimp.
Well, I have some ad libs I do to it now when I sing it live, because I have a real comedic. It's funny, if you hear me live, I have kind of a very comedic sort of approach to everything. So I do a lot of little ad libs where I add other vodkas and other accliments and other ingredients and things that I don't have in the song, just to accentuate it a little bit more. It's quite funny. So,
quick question for you: how did the reputation of the Costa Man come to be?
Okay, so when I first moved down to Costa Rica, I was just under my name, Darin Talbot, for the first 3 or 4 years. And then I have 2 kids that live in the Netherlands, ironically, and they were living down there with me, with my wife at the time. They moved back to the Netherlands, and I would go periodically and see them there. And while I was watching my daughter play soccer one day in an extraordinarily cold weather, I was just dreaming of Costa Rica and how much I wanted to be back in the sunny weather. And so while I was watching her play soccer, I wrote this song called Costa Man. And I put it to a video, which I made myself, and then I released it. And the song went viral all over the country. Had over 2 million views on Facebook, had over 100,000 on YouTube. And it was all Costa Ricans that loved the song, which was ironic because I'm a gringo. So then when I went down the following season, to my surprise, everybody was calling me Costa Man. And I didn't ask for that or look for it or even try to brand it or anything. And I thought about it, kind of scratched my head and said, boy, I should probably trademark this. I should probably brand it and probably own that because it's a pretty cool thing to be called. And so since then, it's just stuck. And it's just kind of my thing now. It's just amazing. I mean, whenever I go to Costa Rica, I'm quite famous there. I'm probably one of the most famous gringos in Costa Rica now just because of my music. But everywhere I go, people are like, "Oh, there's Costa Man." So I'm like, I always say I don't have any superhero powers. You know, I don't.
Well,
I can't.
We need to get with DC Comics or Marvel and actually get you, your own comic book. I would think that's great. There isn't. Is there a Central American superhero? There is now.
I don't know.
Costa Man.
I don't know. But one of my jokes was always that I could drink more beer and play guitar better than any mortal human being.
There you go.
So that's my secret. That was my superhero power. Is like, wow, that guy could drink a lot and still actually play guitar and function. and now that might have changed since then because I don't drink very much anymore. But at the time, I was pretty out. I was trying to say I had a high tolerance.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
Jeez. And remember, folks, the more you drink, the better he sounds, too. Here is the Costa Man, Darin
exactly.
Talbot. We're going to feature the song Costa Man right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
I gotta see the Coaster Man.
Coaster days, coaster smiles, coaster nights, you know they are so coaster wild on a coaster wave, so coaster heaven, yeah. Costa Rica, you'll always be so close to me. I'm in coaster love with your coaster style and the coaster places that no words can coast describe on a coaster cloud in the coaster jungle. Costa Rica, you'll always be so close to me. And I've been away, way too long. And I wanna sing your songs. And I wanna stay forever in the Pura Vida, Costa Rica. I'm your long lost son, the Costa man. Costa friends, Costa fun, Costa dreams coming true in the Costa sun, fresh Costa rain, so Costa clean, yeah. Costa Rica, Costa you is a Costa me. And I've been away, way too long. And I wanna sing your songs. And I wanna stay forever in the Pura Vida, Costa Rica. I'm your long lost son, the Costa man. Costa days, Costa smiles, Costa waves and Costa wild, Costa love, Costa style on a Costa cloud, so Costa high, Costa friends, Costa fun. It's Costa time for you to come to Costa Rica. You'll always be so Costa to me. Mucho amor para mi amiga Costa Rica.
Okay, raise a glass and kick back because the Costa Man is here. Darin Talbot on the Someone You Should Know podcast with Costa Man. This has been the interview I've been looking forward to this week because it's just you and I reconnecting. It's just, it's
such a long time.
We had
right?
so much fun.
Funny.
We had so much fun back in 2001. We're having more fun now. Jeez. Before we continue, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Someone You Should Know podcast. There you'll see recent news, our archive of past episodes. And also, if you happen to be visiting, we invite you to leave a review. That always helps us out big time. And from my stats, I heard that we are in cities all around the world. I want to give a salute to Fort Collins, Colorado, White Plains, New York, and Liberia, Costa Rica. How far is that from where you live, Darin?
Boy, it's about 35, 40 minutes.
Jeez,
pretty close.
There you go.
There's a big airport there. That's the large city in Guanacaste, which is a province to the North Pacific side of Costa Rica, which is probably the most popular area of the country in terms of tourism. And the little town of Tamarindo, which is where kind of I'm centrally located out of, is the most popular surf town in Costa Rica, actually probably in all of Central America. And so Liberia is the main hub for the airport and the main city close to that area.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. We're speaking with the Costa man, Darin Talbot. Darin, I got to ask you, what is your writing process like? Are you a disciplined writer where you take the time to write and say, okay, this Thursday at 9 a.m., I'm going to write some music? Or is it just, okay, I got my guitar and I'm sitting at the beach and all of a sudden something pops?
Yeah, I got to say that was something I did a lot more when I was earlier in my writing. I think now I'm a little less disciplined, and maybe that's because I'm more fragmented in my entertainment. You know, I spent and you don't know this, but I spent nearly 3 years as a stand-up comedian.
You're kidding.
And no, against Bradshaw. Bradshaw at the time was trying to steer me clear of that. He's like, "Don't do it," you know. And he had a very funny line. He said, "You know what's not funny about comedy, Darin?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "The money."
Yeah, that's
and I
true.
go, "Oh, there's no money in it." And I go, "Yeah," but I need to know whether I can do it or not. So I just wanted to see, you know, I knew it was the hardest act in show business, and so I used my guitar in it too. So I was integrating my music into the comedy, and I had a great, and I was still singing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the music was always paying my bills, but the comedy was a fun extension. And then, so then as time has gone by, I would say my discipline in writing has been less. But ironically, I just wrote wrote 2 songs in the last 2 weeks. I hadn't written in a long time, and it's still there. You know, it's funny. It doesn't go away. You know, you're once you get a certain level of writing and you're able to do something, you know, it's still there.
Okay.
You know,
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Can you give me your go-to joke when you were a comedian? Can you remember that?
Yeah. So if I came out and I want the icebreaker joke, right? Is I'd come out and I would say, you know, it's so popular to have a disorder now. You know, I mean, it's, you know, there used to be just ADD, you know, and then now there's like a dozen different acronyms that extend off of ADD. And I don't know whether it's just the pharmaceutical companies that want you to get on some kind of disorder so that they can prescribe you some new great medication to save yourself. I said, so let me explain to you what my disorder is. I suffer from a very unusual disorder. It's ADD double D HD, which means I can only focus on double D breaths in HD. And then I would look in the crowd at somebody, and I'd look at a girl and I go, I'm pretty sure those are HD. I mean, they're right in front of me, so I'm pretty sure those are HD. So, you know, that was my go-to joke.
Very good.
And then if nobody laughed, if you know, because that's the funny part about, well, that's the scary part about comedy is if nobody laughs, what do you do? So I always have my comeback for that was always that, you know, a lot of people laugh on the inside. You know, they internalize comedy. They also hold their sneezes in. You know, they let these explosions occur inside of them, you know, rather than letting that out. You know, but comedy is, it was an interesting journey to do comedy. Yeah. Well, comedy's still a part of my show. Actually, it's more than ever a part of my show now.
Well, that's why you're so entertaining. I mean, I've caught some of what you're doing, even back in the old days, and what you're doing now. It kind of has to be. The levity. I mean, you're a little bit later. We're going to talk about a special show he's got coming up here. Yeah, your levity is incredible. You can hear it in the songs. It's just wonderful. And I want to talk about something else you were involved with about a dozen years ago. Actually, it was in 2013. You did a really cool tour of Canada called the Black & Decker Grill Tour. 54 shows on a tour bus at Walmart. And you were like the
story. I almost want to make into a movie because it's such a wild thing that happened. I mean, a client who saw me at a ski resort, Squaw Valley in Lake Tahoe, back in the day, probably when we talked close to that time, loved me, loved my interaction, loved my personality, and he called me out of the blue in Costa Rica. I was really hungover at the time, and he says, "Darin, I got a gig for you." And I said, yeah, what are we talking about? He goes, 90 days. I go, 90 days. That's a big gig. What are we talking about? And so he offered me, he said, how about you doing a tour as Black & Decker spokesperson for their new line of barbecues across 54 Walmarts across Canada next summer, 2013. And I said, absolutely. That sounds like a blast. So they did. They bought a tour bus. They put my face on the side of it. I brought a driver from Costa Rica with me who didn't even know how to drive a tour bus. And I mean, it's an hilarious story of mishaps and misfortunes, as well as fortunes and opportunities. And it's just hysterical. The things that we went through, all the kinds of crazy things that happened during that 3 months of driving. I mean, I didn't even know what I was really doing, and they didn't really know what they were doing. They invested, I think, $2 or $3 million into this project. That and ironically, the crux of the whole problem in Canada was everybody uses gas lines into their house for their barbecues, and Decker had made all the barbecues propane. So we had a really hard time selling the barbecues in Canada because they weren't designed. They didn't have a conversion kit to go to their houses.
Oh,
and so we were supposed to get a U.S. contract. I was going to be the barbecue guy, Rick.
Yeah.
I was going to be the barbecue guy for Black & Decker for the rest of my life, which I thought would have been a pretty, it's one thing to be Flo from Progressive Insurance. Mm-hmm. It's another thing to be, the queue master for the barbecues of Black & Decker, which I thought was going to be like a life-changing, career-changing thing. Yeah. So it was an amazing experience. I mean, all on their dime, just went all over the country, saw the entire country, almost 14,000 miles we drove.
Wow.
And all the way across Canada, all the way back across the United States.
She said
it's just incredible.
That's incredible. Well, the question is, what is your forte when it comes to grilling, as far as what do you like to grill out?
Now, here's another thing. I had to become suddenly a grill expert.
Oh, geez.
When I did something about grilling. I had like a week to be like crash course on how to be a grill expert on like 6 different types of barbecues. Searing, I had like a searing thing over here. I had, this thing for all these extra burners on the really expensive barbecues, and I had to know everything, which was really quite funny. Now, can I make a mean steak now? Boy, can I make a mean steak, because I learned how to do it. But and I love to barbecue. I do. I would have been a great. And it was their idea to call me the Q Master. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, this is great, because I don't know if you remember, I had a song way back in the day called Tweaker Shred.
Yes, I do. That was one of my favorites.
And so everybody's like, you're always this master, that master, until I became Costa Man. And so that was the guy who, he loved Tweaker Shredmaster. So the CEO of the company said to me, he goes, we're going to make you the Q Master. And they dressed me up all black. I looked like Johnny Cash. I had this full black outfit on. I would always have black shoes, black everything, because I was the barbecue guy. It was quite funny. I mean, it was such a fun experience.
I'm seeing a total comic book here. He is the grill master by day, and then when music happens, he's Costa Man.
Yeah, it's like a whole other guy. I had a lady the other day. She said, you have so many things going on. I don't know how you keep track of them all. I mean, you have so many. If there's anything that some of us have, there's some people that suffer from this. I call it Willy Wonka-ism. Mm-hmm. It's literally, I have like just, too many ideas, so much happening in my head, trying to do all these things and to try to just hold on to one thing and follow through with the one thing, like whether it be just Costa Man which has been my primary focus is now particularly in the way the world is. I mean, the world's changed so much since the last time we talked. And I mean, it's crazy how much has changed. And so Costa Rica has really become much more appealing to me every day that passes.
Oh, I could totally understand it. When people want to actually get off the grid and actually start to enjoy life, that might be the ideal place to go. The next song we're going to feature is my personal favorite now, and it has racked up over 2.5 million views on Facebook, 171,000 views on YouTube. It is a beautiful song. Solo in Costa Rica. What is the story behind this amazing song?
Well, I had written a number of songs about Costa Rica that had done really well, but somebody had said to me one day, had you ever thought about writing a song in Spanish? Because it is their native tongue. Mm-hmm. And I speak Spanish pretty well. And then a friend of mine that I hung out with all the time seemed to know all the lingo about Costa Rica, not Spanish, but I'm talking Costa Rican Spanish lingo. That was specific words that only Costa Ricans say. Mm. And so I picked all that up over time. And so the interesting part about this song is that a lot of it is really words and phrases and things that only Costa Ricans would say to each other. And so I made the song during COVID. I made the video during COVID, and we released it actually at the end of COVID, not really knowing what it would do. And it just went bonkers. I mean, the Costa Rican people love this song. I get messages all the time. Oh, we love this song. It's my favorite song I ever had about Costa Rican. And it's a crazy thing because I'm a gringo. And so it is just, to me, it's been one of my favorite things I've ever done in terms of affecting people, because I've affected a beautiful group of people who are simple. You know, they're generally not very wealthy, but they're happy, you know, and they enjoy life. And it's a beautiful song. I'm just really proud.
Yeah, I am.
You know?
I love it too. As a matter of fact, I invite everybody right now to just go ahead and turn the volume up just a little bit now. Get really mellow. This is a great song. This is Solo in Costa Rica from the Costa Man, Darin Talbot.
Accogliete in flauto, todo tuanis pura vida, todos los días que bueno mai, solo en Costa Rica. Y es mejor en pura vida. Las chicas son más bonitas y sonrisas más grandes. Solo en Costa Rica. De Guanacaste a Punta Arenas y Lomo ni Charibo y Aluela, de la Fortuna a Tamarindo y Nicoya y Ochal y Santa Teresa, todo el amor para pura vida, solo en Costa Rica. Accogliete en flauto, todo tuanis pura vida, todos los días que bueno mai, solo en Costa Rica. De Guanacaste a Punta Arenas y Limón y Charibo y Aluela, de la Fortuna a Tamarindo y Nicoya y Cartago y Pavonas, solo amor para pura vida, solo en Costa Rica. Todo el amor para pura vida, solo en Costa Rica. Solo en Costa Rica.
Beautiful song, Solo in Costa Rica from the Costa Man, my dear friend Darin Talbot. Love the song, man. Absolutely love the song.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I mean, it's been used for a bunch of stuff, and I now have it in my it's a big part of my big show that I have down there now.
I can understand.
And yeah, it's connected me to them.
Very good.
It's really in a way that the other songs couldn't because it's Spanish.
Very good. By the way, all the songs have gorgeous videos that I will include down in the show notes. I want you to go ahead and check those out. And if that doesn't make you want to check out Costa Rica for your next vacation, I don't know what will. You did a great job on the videos. You say you did these yourself?
Well, the solo in Costa Rica was done by somebody else, he did a marvelous job.
But you did Costa Man.
No, Costa Man I did on my own. Puerto Vitaville I did on my own. And ironically, there's another song that's on my YouTube channel called Master of Vacation, which is that was done by the guy that made Solo in Costa Rica. He came to one of my shows because he loved Costa Man so much. He came. I never knew him. I never met him. And he videoed me doing this song called Master of Vacation, made the whole thing on his phone. And I told him, I said, I made Costa Man and Puerto Vitaville basically on my phone on an iPad. That's it. And it's amazing what you can do if you learn how to do it and you want to do it. It's amazing what you can do.
That's just it. And you did it I swear I thought these were absolutely done like maybe by the Costa Rican Visitor Center or something like that.
I know.
Because it's so well done. Take a look for yourself down in the show notes. Go ahead and click on those videos and tell me those things don't look incredibly professional. Absolutely well done, man. Well done.
Thank you.
This next feature is because you play out a lot. You've played out many, many gigs from California to Costa Rica and every place in between and all over Canada. It's called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. This is, I think, your Spinal Tap moment. Kind of, Darin, what would you say would be maybe one or two or three of some of your favorite tales?
Well, I got to tell you, there's a lot of good ones, man. There's a lot of good tales. One of my favorite tales, if you don't mind, I might tell two really quickly.
Go ahead. You've got the floor. You've got the floor. There's no time limit.
The very first gig I ever had, my mom and some friends took me to see Somebody Like Me. And my mom looked at me and she said, "You can do this, and you're better than he is because you're funnier. You have a better personality than he does. But you sing as well as he does." And so the opportunity came where I was able to sing in this bar. First show I ever had. Never sang in public ever. Only with my guitar in a living room. And I got this gear from some friends to use. I go to the show. I set everything up, and the moment comes where I have to start playing. The gear fails. It just doesn't work.
Of course.
So, all right. And I go outside. I'm screaming at the sky. And my mom comes out and she said, "What is wrong?" And I said, "The gear isn't working. I don't know why it's not working. It's been working fine. And then the moment comes and it just doesn't work." And I looked at her and I said, "This is a clear sign, Mom, that I'm not supposed to do this." And she grabbed me. God rest her soul. She's, up in heaven now. And she grabbed me and she looked at me and she said, "You're going to grab your guitar. You're going to go in there and you're going to sing a cappella and you're going to get this gig because you're too good for you not to do that." And I did. I went in there. I sang for 2 hours, literally almost lost my voice because I had no microphone.
Right. Yeah.
I sang in this busy bar. At the end of the night, the bar owner looked at me and said, "Get some new gear next week and you can have the gig every week, every Friday for $100. And that was like 28 years ago. Jeez, something like that. And if that hadn't happened, if my mom had told me to do that and I didn't do that, I'm not sure my career would have even, I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know because I had that gig for like 6 years every Friday night. And I built everything out from it, in terms of my other gigs. So that's my first story. And so I would just tell young, artists out there, that when something happens, you have to keep pushing ahead because it's not an indication of anything. It's just, it didn't work.
Yeah.
The second one is quite funny. It's from the Black & Decker Grill Tour. We had done a show in Toronto. It was a very, very hot day. Walmart was assisting us with barbecues and staff and stuff. We were raising money for the Children's Miracle Network when we were trying to showcase the barbecues. At the end of the day, the guys that helped us wanted to go down to the lake in Lake Ontario and have a nice time. Well, we had this big tour bus in this trailer and we had all these very hot barbecues. Well, Black & Decker had, fitted us with all kinds of stuff to put the barbecues back into the trailer to make sure they were safe. We were in a rush. So we threw all the barbecues back in.
No.
We threw all the barbecues back in and proceeded to go to the liquor store to grab some booze, to go down to the lake to get a swim in. This guy with his Harley was with us. And so we go in, we put all the barbecues away. We cover them with these blankets that are supposed to be fire retardant. Supposed to be. Have everything in the trailer. We get down to the lake. We park the bus. We got these nice cocktails all made. We walk out. We're ready to go to the beach. We turn around, look at the trailer. The trailer is spewing smoke out of it. Just spewing smoke. And now, mind you, we're parked illegally in a provincial parking lot. And both of us, neither one of us had the proper driver's license to be driving this bus across the country. That's why I want to make the thing into a movie, because it's a much larger story, the deeper story to this. And we knew this, right? So then we were like, oh my God, we're in a panic. What do we do? What do we do? So my driver goes to get the fire extinguisher. I said, well, I will open the door so we can get in there. Mm-hmm. And as I go to open the door, my buddy goes, don't do it. Don't do it. Because as soon as I open the door, I let the oxygen in.
Yeah.
And as soon as I let the oxygen in, it went up in flames.
Yeah.
So the flames start blowing up. We open the whole thing up. We put the whole thing out with a fire extinguisher.
Well, you're lucky.
A provincial truck pulls up at the time and says, what's going on here, guys? And I said, yeah, we have a little fire here, but it's out. It's good. We're gone. It's all done. And he goes, yeah, but you're illegally parked where you are. And I said, yeah. I said, I know. He goes, well, I think I'm going to have to call the fire department and everything. I'm said, no. You don't want to do that. And the guy goes, no, I think I have to do it. And I looked at him and I said, I think there's a way where we can solve this between us. And he said, yeah, how do you figure that? And I go, how about a $1,500 stainless steel barbecue, brand new? Would you like that? And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, would you like a brand new barbecue, courtesy of Black & Decker? And he goes, yeah. So I pull out the barbecue, I pull it out, I give it to him, and he goes, this is beautiful. And I go, yeah. And he goes, he puts it in his car, and he turns around and he goes, I don't think we're quite there yet. And
oh,
I go,
no.
what? I go, you're kidding. I go, that's not enough. And he goes, I'm going to need a cover for that. And I go, oh. So I threw him a Black & Decker cover for the barbecue. And he goes, have a nice day, gentlemen. He goes, I'll try to keep the thing from getting on fire again. Oh, and he drove away.
Love it.
And otherwise, we would have been dealing with the cops, fire department, everything. So Black & Decker, it's just hysterical.
This has got to be a movie.
Oh,
yeah.
It is a movie, and there's way more to this story that's just hilarious. That's way beyond that. It's just one of many, many stories.
Or if you ever write a book, if you need someone to voice the book, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Oh, my God. I'll tell you what. That's a great idea. And this is kind of a Dumb and Dumber. It really is like a Dumb and Dumber story.
Yeah.
And like if two guys, going across the country, not even knowing what they're doing, totally illegally doing it. And the company being like, just gun it. Go for it. Like even the company didn't do its due diligence to make sure that we had all our I's were dotted, all our T's were crossed. Yeah. So it's just it's hilarious. I've been working on a script for it. I got a treatment for it already, and it's just hilarious. But those are my stories.
Wonderful.
I love those.
Wonderful. Love it. How about links to all your social media so people can find out a little bit more and maybe plan a vacation down to Costa Rica to come see you?
Yeah. Well, my Instagram is the word the.Costaman. So I'm the.Costaman on Instagram. On Facebook, you can type in Darin Talbot. I have a regular personal page, which I already have 5,000 fans. So I don't know whether I need to open another one, but I do have a fan page, which is Darin Talbot, the Costaman. So if you go to Darin Talbot, the Costaman on Facebook, you can join my fan page there. And then I also have a YouTube channel. You just type in Darin Talbot or type in Costaman, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I don't have a TikTok yet. I don't know why. I've been thinking about doing that for a while. I'm not sure why, because I'm the perfect guy to have.
Let your granddaughter come up with that one.
Yeah,
it seems to be the right age group,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for it.
I look at that way too. As far as they said, "Hey, Rick, you need to be on TikTok." I'm going, I'm 63 years old.
Yeah, well, what's funny about that too is, Facebook is viewed as like the old people's social media platform, and Instagram's more the young people's. And you could argue that Instagram's more the middle-aged, and then TikTok would be the young people. Right? So
there you go. The reason why I want people to do this, because you got very special things coming up here. October 6th in Orinda, you're going to be opening for Michael Franti. Tell us about that, because I know you're excited about that gig.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing. A friend of mine, Chris Flum, who used to work for Bill Graham Presents back in the day, he got me a couple openers. Well, he got me to open for the Beach Boys in Marysville, California. That was years ago.
Whoa.
And that was a big one. And then he used to manage the Fillmore in San Francisco. Yeah. and a great guy, is a real dear friend of mine for a long, long time, knows Bradshaw as well. He just called me out of the blue a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, would you like to be one of the openers for Michael Franti?" And I said, "What?" And then he says to me, "How much do you want?" And I said, $1 million. I said, if somebody asks you what you want to get paid, you always say $1 million. So no, anyway, I'm just glad to have the opportunity to be there and maybe meet him and just be able to be a part of who he is, because he's an amazing guy and an incredible artist. And if you don't know who Michael Franti is, you should look him up. He's filled with love, filled with light, and is just an extraordinary artist. So that's going to be a wonderful opportunity.
We'll include the information about tickets and such in the show notes. All right.
Thank
Very
you.
Good.
Yeah,
Very
and
good.
all the proceeds go to breast cancer. It's a fundraiser show.
Very good. Yeah, what's in October? October is Breast Cancer Month. There you go. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
Right. Yeah.
Secondly, you're developing a stage show in Costa Rica called the Pura Vida Show, and it's a cultural dinner show, the only one in Costa Rica, and I will have the link to that down in the show notes. Tell me about that show.
Yeah, I started it last year. It's been a dream of mine for many years. I used to live in Hawaii. I've been really broken up by what's happened in Maui and Lahaina and all that. It's, I grew up under that little banyan tree in the Pioneer Inn there in Lahaina as a kid. So I feel I love Hawaii so much. And in Hawaii, my dad would take us to luau's, which are cultural shows about Hawaii, and they were wildly popular and great ways to learn about the history and folklore of Hawaii. So in Costa Rica, it dawned on me that there was nothing like that. And I'm a big history buff. I mean, I love history. I love delving into the stories, not just the real history, but the folklore and the myth and all that. And so in Costa Rica, I was really realizing that there really wasn't anything that was talking about the culture. I don't even know if the country really understands that it has a culture. And so I felt there was a real opportunity there. And so we launched it last year. It's got dance and fire and magic and stories and costumes, traditional dancers that we bring in from the local communities to dance. And it's just an incredible experience, an immersion, really. I mean, you're immersed in Costa Rica, everything, and includes the food. Yeah. This year, we're going to be launching a show in Tamarindo, which won't include the food. It'll just be the show. And then we have one in Flamingo, which is just about 20 minutes from Tamarindo, that does include the food. And it's exciting. I mean, it allows me to be able to do all the things I want to do, which is, I'm a singer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a comedian, I'm a storyteller, I'm an actor. I'm able to do all those things.
He's a grill master too.
And I'm a grill master. So this is really to me, yeah, it's funny. This really is, to me, the culmination of my whole career and all the things I can do into one thing that showcases it all. So, and it's done in the place I really enjoy being, which is Costa Rica. So, I've been a lucky guy, man. I got to say, it's a funny thing, to be in an entertainment, like even doing what you're doing, most of your life it's a rare opportunity to be able to do that on any level,
I kind of feel I get the feeling that you and I have never worked a day in our life. It's just, we've got to, we play. I had my old boss on just a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the fact, he says, Rick, you realize you never worked a day in your life. Yeah. And I said, well, because I would go to work at the All-Star Radio Network, and what would we do? We would play. We would have fun every day. Yeah. It's like, okay, the only thing we didn't have was nap time.
Yeah, which I'm a big proponent of, by the way. I think there should be nap time even at businesses and corporations. Yeah. It's funny. It's kind of like that Jimmy Buffett line, my occupation's just not around.
Yeah, absolutely. From Pirate Looks at 40. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've always resonated with that line, because I've always felt like, and it's funny. I went to a doctor not too long ago, and the doctor said, "You look so young for your age. It's crazy." And he goes, "You're biologically way younger than you are." He said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, I'm an entertainer. I've been entertaining most of my life." And he goes, that's a great occupation, one that probably keeps you young, and I was like, I think you're right. I mean, I think if you're doing what you love, think of how many people don't do what they love. They just grind out doing something they can't stand for decades, and that'll age you big time. But, it's important people try to do, that you make every sacrifice you can to try to do something you love, because you only have one shot at this whole thing.
Right, exactly. Now, speaking of Buffett, you just mentioned Jimmy just a few minutes ago, and we just mentioned the Pura Vida show. Let's talk about Pura Vidaville, a song that actually wound up winning the 2018 Arts and Cultural Award in Costa Rica. I love the song. I am wearing
Yeah.
it would be, I guess you would say, almost like a Jimmy Buffett t-shirt or short shirt here. I am calling this my Pura Vidaville shirt from this point forward. And
Oh,
you
man.
gotta tell me about Pura Vidaville. I love the song.
Yeah, Pura Vidaville is one of my favorite songs I ever wrote. I intentionally wrote it. A friend of mine years ago, we were singing Margaritaville, and he said, and he was a bartender, and he yelled out at me. He goes, "No, it's not Margaritaville. It's Pura Vidaville. Same number of syllables."
Oh, absolutely. It
It's
flows
perfect.
so well. It flows so well.
Crazy. And so then I said, you know what? One day I said, you know what? That I don't want to say Pura Vidaville and Margaritaville. I want to make my own Pura Vidaville song. So I did, and I purposely wrote it in a way where there could be no copyright infringement.
Mm-hmm.
There could be no question that Jimmy Buffett could say, "Oh, that sounds like Margaritaville," because it doesn't. And I just, when I play the song, I always say, you know, you got drunk in Margaritaville for 50 years. I think it's time that you got in your golf cart and you made your way down to a new place to get wasted, you know, and you can even drink on the way, you know, so, you know, you're not going to lose any time. And so then and the cool thing about Pura Vidaville is it's all the flavors, everything in it is specifically Costa Rica. It really touches on what makes Costa Rica special. And it's a great song. I'm really proud of the song.
I love it. Absolutely love it. It's probably one of my favorite songs I've heard this year, and I absolutely love it, man. I really and truly am very so excited to have you back on the show. I mean, you and I really connect, and it's one thing I really and truly liked from the first time I met you. And I played your music for my wife, and she goes, "Oh, this guy's very, very talented." And I goes, "I got him back on." And so I know everyone's going to be excited to hear this thing. I am just so grateful to have you back on, pal.
You know, personality loves personality. And you know, you and I both have it, and it's so much more a joy to talk to somebody, you know, that's like-minded, you know, that has the same kind of energy and passion for the world. And I appreciate reconnecting with you. It's a joy to be on your show, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Leslie and I are going to have to find a way to get down to Pura Vidaville, and you and I all of both of our families will raise a glass together. What do you say?
I would love that. That sounds fantastic. I look forward to it.
Hey, where are you going to go on vacation? I'm going to go down to that cool little Pura Vidaville town, Costa Rica. Chewing on ceviche, watching the surf break, and all of the monkeys just hanging around. That's you. Sipping on sangria, pura vida amiga, hitting on the new girl who just got into town. And the tide rolls in, tide rolls out, and it's rolling back again. And I'm singing, welcome my friends to Pura Vidaville. Population smile 365, and every day it gets a little better. It's colder beer under warmer weather, and you're welcome to stay the rest of the day or the rest of your life. Tired of my bones freezing, can't find the reasons to live in a place that's cold as hell. No, no. Now I sip on peepers, sunny Costa Rica, singing songs on the beach with the sun going down, yeah. And the tide rolls in and the tide rolls out, and it's rolling back again. And I'm singing, welcome my friends to Pura Vidaville. Population smile 365. It's so safe they don't have an army. It certainly makes for a better party, and you're welcome welcome to stay the rest of the day or the rest of your life. Kicking back on my old chaise lounge with a couple cold Imperials, yeah now. Welcome my friends to Population Smile 365. And every day it gets a little better. It's colder beer under warmer weather. And you're welcome to stay the rest of the day or the rest of your mis amigos. Bienvenidos, pura vida vil. Population Smile 365. And every day it gets a little better. It's colder beer under warmer weather. And you're welcome to stay the rest of the day or the rest of your life. Rest of your life. Rest of the day or the rest of your life.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.